On November 9, 2017, I received a call from AVAC, which is the emergency vet clinic in Annapolis, that advised that they had a client come in with their pet that was killed by 2 dogs, and the client was a Richard Bailey. I advised them to send over the record. I then received a phone call from Richard Bailey advising that his dog was severely attacked by 2 dogs on his property owned by their tenants. Mr. Bailey advised that Mr. John Evans and his girlfriend Alexa live in his cottage house on his property, and 2 of his dogs got away from him and attacked his dog Sophie, a female Yorkshire Terrier. He advised that his dogs did not survive. Mr. Bailey advised that he had his dog on their deck, which is gated. He advised that his tenant's dog broke through the gate and attacked her. He explained that he took her to AVAC, where she was pronounced deceased. I contacted Mr. John Evans. Evans explained about the incident that was reported by AVAC and Mr. Bailey. He advised that he was aware and that he lost control of his dogs Zeba and Lily, and they bit Sophie. I asked him to send in a statement and that his dogs would have to come into the shelter under public safety investigation due to the severity of the incident. Mr. Evans advised that it was about 7 a.m. He took his dogs Lily, Zeba, and Rambo for a walk in the backyard. He explained that about 10 minutes later, he was almost at his door when Rick opened the door. Sophie was then at the gate barking. When Zeba and Rambo ran over to the gate barking and wagging their tails, he walked over there to get them when the gate fell forward and scared Zeba. She then began to bite Sophie. I grabbed her while holding the leash to Lily. Once Zeba let go of Sophie, Lily then bit her. When he got her off, Zeba then bit Sophie again. He then fell on the deck because it was wet. Lily bit Sophie. As Rick came out to help with the dogs, he took Sophie inside. Mr. Evans then advised that he took her to the vet, however, it was too late. Mr. Evans then brought both dogs in on November 11, 2017 under public safety investigation. At this time, I received the medical record from AVAC on Sophie. After thorough review of the file and means to protect the public from future incidences, Animal Control did issue the vicious order on both Zeba and Lily under County Code 124402 and 405. Mr. Evans did file an appeal. The dogs are still here in our shelter, and I do have Mr. and Mrs. Bailey that are here that own the property, and Sophie was their dog.
No.
Okay.
You did a good job.
Did they want to say anything?
No.
Okay. All right, sir, go.
Thank you very much. Call Mr. Johnny Evans. Mr. Evans, you've been duly sworn. Were you a witness to the attack on Sophie?
Yes.
Are there any additions, deletions, or corrections to the statement that's been read into the record by the animal control officer?
As you said, Richard Bailey took the dog in. I'm the one that took the dog in.
Took the dog in?
To the
You
animal
transported
hospital.
the dog to the veterinary hospital yourself?
Correct.
Can you tell the ladies and gentlemen of the Animal Matters Board here where you live and what the property looks like?
I live above in a garage, attached 2-car garage. We have an apartment above it.
Okay, and the owner of that property is Mr. Bailey, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
How long have you lived there, sir?
About 9 years.
All right. Are your dogs acquainted with Mr. Bailey's dogs?
Yes.
Do they get along?
Well, the other 2 have passed. Sophie, they never really interacted with each other. They're never really outside together. So, I mean, other than her barking, they never really associated with each other.
Has, in your recollection, Sophie ever shown any aggressive tendencies or bitten your dogs or
Yes.
anything like that? Well, tell the ladies and gentlemen of the Animal Matters Board exactly what the interaction of the dogs has been in the past.
I mean, the only time that the dog's really been around mine was on a leash. She's bitten a dog. Even with my dogs not out, the dog will run around the house barking, try to get in the house. And he knows that she's bit the dog before, and he always said that one day the dog's going to get you back. Unfortunately,
He meaning Mr. Bailey?
yes, sir.
I see. And how old are these 2 dogs, sir?
The one is 8 and the other's 6.
What are their breeds?
6 and 7.
What are their breeds?
Lily is a mix. She's a lab, Preza, and a little bit of a pit. Zeba is a Brindle pit bull.
In the past, have these two dogs ever shown any propensity toward a human or another animal for aggression or viciousness?
No, sir.
Can you give the ladies and gentlemen of the Animal Matters Board here a little bit of history of your ownership of these dogs and how you have socialized them, if you have?
In the summertime, once every couple weeks, we take them to Dogwood Acres, which is a doggy water park in Davidsonville. We've had animals brought to us to try to save. We rescued a baby deer. I've had the dogs around a deer. I've had the dogs around a baby duck. We've had 2 ducks. We've had 5 squirrels. The dogs have been around them all. I have plenty of pictures. The dogs with multiple different animals. Never had any issues with the dog and any other domesticated animal or foreign animal, I guess you would call them. The deer we've taken to Davidsonville Wildlife Sanctuary. We've taken a duck to Davidsonville Wildlife Sanctuary. The squirrels, they just kind of went off the deck and went on their own. But I take the dogs everywhere: Home Depot, Bass Pro, anywhere I could take them. I take them with me. We take them camping all the time. We go camping almost once every 3 weeks. We go away for a weekend, and then we go for a week. Pick a place every year. We go for a week, and we take the dogs with us. Never had an issue.
Are the dogs around children in your family as well?
Yes, I have a 2-year-old, a 6-year-old. My nephew, one's 3 and 7. The babysitter. They always got kids over there. So,
In your recollection, is this the first incident that either of your dogs has ever shown any aggressive tendency?
yes.
The description that was read into the record by the animal control officer sounded complete. Do you have any additions, deletions, or corrections to that? You're the only person that saw this attack, is that correct?
Correct.
Why don't you describe to the ladies and gentlemen of this board what you saw?
So as she stated, 7 o'clock, I took the dogs out. They're only out for a couple minutes. They go out, they potty, they come back in. We almost to the door, like she said. Rick opened up the door, let Sophie out.
Can you
shut the
put your
door.
hands down?
I'm sorry. Rick opened the door, let Sophie out, shut the door. So she was out on the back deck barking. Of course, mine ran over. Ram has a shock collar on him because sometimes there's deer in the backyard and he likes to chase a deer. So we put him on a shock collar. So I got him away, and of course the gate. They weren't barking aggressively. They're barking. There's just 2 dogs barking at each other. So when the gate fell, I guess I'm assuming that's what startled Zeba. I couldn't see the initial bite, but when I came around the corner, like I said, I seen Zeba. She bit her. I got Zeba off, but then of course Lily, she was on a leash, so she got drug into it. So after a couple seconds of that, that's when Rick came out. She was still breathing on the deck, so we wrapped her up in a towel, and I said she needs to go. Mary was going to get dressed, so Rick gave me the dogs to take her. So I put her in my van to Annapolis Veterinarian right on Bestgate Road.
To the best of your knowledge, would it be your testimony that your dog was startled by the gate falling on it?
I would say so. She gets scared easy.
Can I ask a couple questions? Was this 7 a.m. or 7 p.m.?
A.M.
So it was light outside?
Yeah.
And what's the distance between your residence in the garage and the back deck?
30 feet, maybe, if that, 20 feet. But I was walking up from the yard. So,
And how much do your dogs weigh?
when they weighed in, what was it, 74 and 57?
Who's 74? Which one?
Lily.
Lily.
Okay.
And
The one that was
Zeba's,
on a leash.
and Zeba's 57.
Okay.
In your lease arrangement, you're a tenant of Mr. Bailey's?
Correct.
Is that correct? How much of that yard are you entitled to use as part of your lease?
I've never been told I can't go anywhere.
Okay, so the yard, it's your understanding, your lease implies that that yard space is in fact your usable common
Correct.
property?
Yeah.
Indeed, the dogs, is it your testimony that the dogs were in a common area of the property when this happened?
I mean, the deck, I mean, it could be a common, it could not be a common. I've never been told I'm not allowed on there. I do everything for them. You know, they're like family to me. So they've never said, yeah, don't come in on my deck.
Mr. Bailey, I have a question. How old is Lily?
Bailey's over there.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Lily's 6.
I'm sorry.
6.
Is who?
Lily.
Lily.
She's 6. And Zeba is how old?
7.
And have they ever had any formal training?
Not from professionals, but we do have one lined up if we need.
So it doesn't happen again.
So you've never done any obedience work at all? No type of formal training at all?
Like I said, nothing professional. Yeah, I mean, I work with them a little bit. They're okay with me, but again, they're not professionally trained, no.
Ms. Breidenbach, you and Mr. Evans are a couple, is that correct? And you have 2 children? I see. Would you describe the efforts that the 2 of you have made to socialize these 2 dogs?
Since they were puppies, we've always taken them everywhere. I work at Animal Hospital, so they always go to work with me. Never had a problem. We go to Dogwood Acres. They play with 15, 20 different dogs of all sizes. Small, big, furry. Like, doesn't matter.
Camping.
We go camping. Bass Pro, Home Depot, anywhere, any pet store. Never had an issue.
Where did you acquire these 2 dogs, ma'am?
Johnny had Zeba when I came in the picture. He got her at a young age. 4 months?
I think she was 2 months.
She was 2 months old when he got her. She was a rescue. She was locked in an abandoned house in a bathroom. Lily, I've had her since she was born. I had her parents. I watched her be born, and I've had her since, so I know her whole life. Since day one, she's been about baby goats, everything from chickens to baby squirrels, everything.
Fair to say from your testimony that the 2 of you are animal lovers?
Yes.
And is it fair to say that you've been involved actively in animal rescue issues over the course of your relationship?
Yes.
I'd like to call Miss Lisa Krause as our next witness. Ms. Krause has some hearing problems, Your Honor.
Can I ask you a question? Is she actually a witness to what happened?
No.
Or are we going to continue to hear testimony about how socialized the dog is?
Socialized.
I can go on record and say I'm satisfied with what you said. If she's going to say anything, is anybody going to say anything different? Or is it going to be just a repeat of basically the same thing?
I have about a dozen witnesses here, and I will proffer their testimony. All the witnesses will be able to testify as to the friendly nature and character of the dogs. Ms. Krause has special knowledge because she runs a pet rescue, and one of the 2 dogs came from her pet rescue, so she's known that dog from its entire history of its birth till the present time.
So you're talking about Zeba?
Yes.
Yes, I have I do a lot of rescue, pit bull rescue. I have been involved in prying pit bulls off of each other. I don't agree with keeping an animal that is aggressive. I actually had one euthanized this year, a pit bull that had behavior problems. I can testify that Mr. Evans' dogs are more sociable than your run-of-the-mill pet. The unfortunate thing about this situation is this has been an ongoing thing for a while with a small dog and 2 bigger dogs that I had told him was probably going to escalate to something like this, because if his dogs were vicious, there wouldn't have been nothing left of that poor little dog.
Was it?
The dog was bit, from what I understand. She had a rip in her. So that is like a defense bite. It's not ripping a dog to shreds.
I want to object. She's
I'll
not an
object to
expert,
that.
she's not a veterinarian.
The dogs have been to my rescue. They've been around cats. They've been around all the farm animals that I have, horses. They've been around children. There has never ever been an issue with the dogs at all. In my opinion, the dogs are not aggressive. All animals at times will fight with another animal. And like I said, it was just unfortunate that it was a little dog that picked the fight with a bigger dog.
Well, let me ask you
I
a
see
question.
it all the time
Let me
in
ask
my
you a question. Okay. Well, how would you classify then? If you say it's not, how would you classify it then if you say it's not aggressive, that they killed another dog? How would you describe it?
Well,
I find that aggressive.
okay, for instance, I have a Chihuahua that is my personal dog. And it will go after the bigger dogs. It will hang off their neck. It will bite them on the legs. I don't let that Chihuahua torture my bigger dogs like that. I keep him separate.
I say, how would you classify it if you say it's not aggressive?
Classify those 2 dogs.
How would you classify the behavior if you say it's not aggressive?
It was a biting back as a defense. The little dog bit them, and that dog bit back. A pit bull locks on
I'm familiar.
and shakes and rips.
I'm very familiar.
This was, from my understanding of the paperwork that I've seen, the dog was bit and shook one time and let go. In my opinion, a pit bull, a vicious attack, you're not going to get the dog off. And like I said, I've seen them crunch little dogs in half. So, in my opinion, it was a defense bite.
Is it my understanding that at some point you warned the Evans that this kind of a situation would escalate to a situation like this? Did I understand you correctly advising the Evans of this?
I don't understand what he's asking.
She's hard of hearing.
Yeah.
You have to speak up.
Did you warn the Evans that an incident like what occurred could occur? Did you let them know ahead of time that this could happen? You testified to that effect, correct?
Yes, because I was actually on the phone with Mr. Evans one day, and their little dog was attacking and hanging off of one of the pit bulls' necks. And to other people at the party that day, it was a funny thing, the little dog was doing that, hanging off the bigger dog. And Johnny had made statements that if they ever did bite back like that, as a defense, that they were going to hurt the little dog. And Mr. Evans says also was never allowed to put up fencing for his dogs. I do know that, because that was an issue too, to maybe keep his dogs away from the little dog. But it's, tenant and landlord, so, But this wasn't the first time that the dog has gone after his dogs.
And you are a licensed rescue? You're a licensed rescue?
Do I run a rescue? I don't know.
Are you a licensed rescue?
Yes.
You are, okay.
What county? What county in Maryland?
Baltimore.
I have a question. You said that at one point, you said the defense fell, you said because the bottom was pushed in, correct? It was under pressure, the bottom was pushed in. so the
Right,
top
it's not
fell.
like
You
they
said
were
that
jumping
started
up
the
on
dog.
the fence trying to jump over.
Okay, but But to the point, you're saying that the dog pushed it in. I mean, the little dog didn't pull it in, is what I'm getting, right?
Right.
You're saying that the bigger dog pushed it in.
I mean, it could have.
And the
I mean-
rear of the fence fell on the dog.
Right.
And you think that's what precipitated the
I'm,
bite?
I'm assuming that's what startled Ziba, yeah.
Okay.
Like I said, she gets scared easy, she has bad anxiety, so
Cool.
she gets common treats every day. When they're out here, I bring them, when she calls me, says they're out of treats, they're out of food, I drop off a 50-pound bag of dog food for them, I drop off treats for them.
So, let me understand this. So one of your dogs pushed in the bottom and the top fell over on top of the dog.
Correct, whether they pushed, I mean, yeah, I guess she pushed it in.
Okay,
You know,
thank
just
you.
from barking, the pressure, it's, like I said, it's not like, you know, they were trying to jump over it, they weren't leaning on the gate, they weren't jumping on it. She was just so happened that, you know, small dog was underneath, she, you know, getting eye level with her, barking, and that's what happened.
I have some additional documentation to present to the ladies and gentlemen. I have a letter from the office manager at the Bay Hills Animal Hospital. I don't know whether or not you'd like to receive that or not. And, well, I have additional documentation to show, ladies and gentlemen, but it's cumulative testimony. I don't want to overburden the record. Essentially, it's repetitive, and quite a number of people who are acquainted with these dogs have all said the same thing on their behalf. So I make that offer of proof. I don't understand.
We deeply appreciate that. Thank you, sir.
I'd like to, is there anything else you guys like to add?
They haven't testified, Mr. Bailey. They want to.
Change your mind. The only thing that I'm going to add is, I mean, understanding the circumstances, you know, and there was basically talk of possibility of an isolated incident and everything. Our concern is, you know, this could happen again. We all talk about it, you know, and understanding that the dogs are social. You know, I've been dealing with, you know, Mr. Evans and with Alexa in reference to all this and trying to make heads or tails of possibly what could have happened. You know, my concern is, and I mean, I normally do not bring this up in the courtroom because I don't judge dogs when they are in our care and custody, but I am going to let you guys know that basically Ziba has been very aggressive while she's here. We've never had any issues out of Lily at all. So, you know, my thing is that I'm thinking that basically there's a possibility that Ziba is the ringleader. I see it in a lot of times with pack behavior. So, I mean, my concern is obviously we do not want this to occur again. So whatever decisions that are made today is going to be based on the future of what's going to happen with these dogs, obviously. But my concern is that just because there's a lot of socialization, you know, sometimes isolated incidents can happen. We've seen it. We've seen redact aggression. We've seen repeats. And it may not be now. It could be 6 months to a year down the road. Especially now that they've actually been involved in a dog kill. Mm-hmm. So my concern is that we obviously make the right decisions, what's going to be best suited for the dogs.
My thought is, I mean, if we were to drop this down to a dangerous order, there's 10 criteria that need to be fulfilled here, and I'm not seeing how, based on what I've heard so far, how this could work out, especially since you're a renter, you know, at this point. I mean, I just don't, does anybody have that line of thought?
I'm with you. I bring up 2 points. One is the woman that runs the rescue testified that she predicted this would happen and warned them. So that's on record.
Right.
And number 2, it wasn't the fact that the dog that was killed pushed the gate out and it went after the 2 dogs. One of the 2 dogs pushed the gate down and went in. So
Yes.
I'm unfortunately, it happened once. And you've got people saying that, you know, that's not the true nature of these dogs, but it happened, and we have a dead dog.
I feel the same way.
Yeah,
From what
agree.
I've heard with Ziba, she pushed the gate in, and you said she was very nervous. The gate came back over top of her. So she went to ground. She was going to ground. Pit bull there, they tear her. They go to ground. She was. Okay, that's how I feel about that. We have a dead dog that they no longer have as a companion. And we have to protect the public. We have to do what is right.
Some questions?
Yes, you can ask some questions.
Mr. Evans, do you normally, when you take them out, do you normally take them out on lead? Or is that, you had Rambo off lead and you had...
Rambo's
Zebra
usually
off
on a
lead?
shot collar. Like I said, sometimes we have deer in the backyard, in
What
the
about
woods.
Zeba? How do you normally take Zeba out?
Sometimes she's on a leash if there's animals out back. Sometimes she's not. She don't wander far. If there's a deer in the backyard, she'll chase them to the wood line, but she comes back.
And Lily was on lead.
Yes, Lily's on a leash. She's, you know, she likes water. She's a lab. She always goes in a pond out in the woods. So she hasn't had a shock collar yet, but so she's always on a leash.
Did you see Lily bite Sophie?
Yes.
I'm thinking that I agree with you, Ann. I think Zeba is probably the ringleader here. And I'm not uncomfortable keeping the vicious order on Zeba. I think, you know, based on what Officer Thomas said, what we've heard, I think that's not unreasonable. I do agree with Tom, though, that I don't think it would be unreasonable to downgrade Lily from a vicious to a dangerous. I just don't know how the owner's going to be able to comply with the dangerous order, given it's a rental property. So that's kind of where I'm vexed right now.
And I would agree. I'm in a similar position, I would say, Dr. Hammer.
Yeah, I think, procedurally, I'm just trying to think that both dogs were put on a vicious order because both dogs bit that dog, but only one dog.
Two orders? One
There's
for each
two
dog?
orders, two dogs, they both were involved, yes.
Okay. But two separate orders, though. Excuse me.
Because-
It's the same order,
Right.
it's just, yeah, two
Well, what I'm
different.
trying to get at is, we couldn't say for sure which dog actually had the lethal bite.
Correct.
That's why both are under a vicious order.
Well, Mr. Evans, you saw the bite, correct? Which dog did the bite? I mean, you said you saw the
dog was alive in
dog.
my van.
Huh?
The dog was alive in my van.
Right, so that's why.
That's why I took her to the hospital.
So there's no saying which one caused that.
Was there just one bite?
But he
Per
said he
dog.
saw the attack, he saw the
Per
dog
dog.
bite.
Right.
Yeah, per dog.
Both of his dogs bit the smaller dog.
Lily got drug
And
into
then the
it.
dog died and
If I didn't have Lily on a leash, it would have just been Zeba. You know.
I'm struggling, but I'm leaning towards retaining the order against both dogs.
I don't know that I could disagree with that. The only comment being, if any consideration, downgrading Lily, but I'm still coming back to Tom's concern of how does that order get applied in that rental situation, yeah. Yeah, if at all.
Well, if we do that, then the onus is on them to comply with it. If they comply, then they can get the dog back. If they can't, then they don't get the dog back. And it's not our, you know.
Yeah, it's not appropriate, I understand.
Yeah.
I understand.
I mean, it's something needs to be in place on both, is my opinion. It's just a matter of what.
Well, I'll make a motion. Make a motion that we uphold the order for vicious on Zeba. I make a motion that we downgrade Lily from a vicious to a dangerous order.
I'll second that.
Call for a vote.
All in favor? Aye. Okay.
Madam Chair, my client does have some additional testimony, if you would permit it.
We've
voted.
decided.
We just did it.
Decided, yeah. The order, we're gonna uphold the vicious order on Zeba, and we're gonna downgrade Lily from a vicious order to a dangerous order, and you'll be getting all the necessary, how you need to comply from animal control, or how you need to appeal from animal control.